Hey everyone, it's your girl Hannah Joy Gebrselassie with Hannah Joy TV checking in. Want to talk about this vice presidential debate that happened. We all saw it yesterday. If you didn't get to see it, maybe you read some articles or some headlines about it this morning and just want to get your thoughts. Want to hear what you all had to say about it, what you thought about it. Go ahead and leave a comment if you're tuning in, and I'll be able to pull it up on the screen so we can just hear what you thought about it. So drop your comment. Let me know how you thought. What you thought about the vice presidential debate. And as always, wherever you're tuning in from, I'm sending you a lot of love during these times because, you know, we're still living in unprecedented times and there's just a lot of highs and lows. So I just encourage you to keep pushing, to keep fighting, to keep working to make this world a better place. Every step makes a difference. And this fight is far from over. So keep fighting, keep pushing, and keep using your platform to make a difference. So let's go ahead and talk about this vice presidential debate. Right off the top, can we just say how much more tolerable it was to watch than the presidential debate last week? Because I actually was able to get through the entire debate last night without having a headache. And that was not the case last week. I went to bed with the worst headache after seeing the presidential debate last week. But yesterday was a different story. We got to see, California Senator Kamala Harris and, of course, VP Mike Pence come on stage and go back and forth. And one thing I did appreciate about this debate was that they were actually, it was way more civil. It was way more it was just way more mature, than what we saw last week. Now, don't get me wrong. There was still a lot of lying and a lot of beating around the bush, but it was still way more tolerable. And you actually got to hear some of the policies, We didn't really get to hear as much last week because there was so much back and forth. Someone on here commented that it was like two little boys last week playing and fighting each other. Like you would have thought they were little kids. But yesterday we got to actually hear, more points, a little bit of policy. We got to hear some questions. I will say, though, that they both kept dodging questions. And that's one thing I wish the moderator would do more of to address. Make sure that they're staying on topic, because a lot of times they get asked questions and then they answer a whole different question, or they go around, or you know what I mean? So I know the moderator has a hard job. So let's not be too hard on Susan, but at the same time, same thing like last week, we do need a little bit more of a backbone because, they're gonna walk all over the moderator and they're not even gonna answer the question. So there needs to be some type of, requirement where they at least answer the question in some shape or form. Otherwise, why are you even asking questions if they're just gonna answer their own questions, right? So let's see, we got a comment coming in from Brother Jonas Woldu in Las Vegas, Nevada, who says Pence has pink eye and should have not happened, but Kamala made her point clear. He failed the task force in handling pandemic, therefore losing their right to re-election. Thank you so much for that comment, Brother Jonas. If you guys have any comments, drop it and I'll be sure to show it here so we can hear, because I want to hear what y'all thought. I really want to hear what you guys thought about this debate, this vice presidential debate. And yeah, by the way, not just the pink eye, but I know y'all saw the fly. All right. When that fly landed on his head, I was just like, I was like, hold on, wait, did that really just happen? And I'm like, nah, it was a fly. And it was just a moment, that moment, I think it was trending on Twitter. Everybody was talking about it, a fly. And then of course you see Joe Biden's campaign using it for advertisements now. They have fly swatters. I mean, it was funny. I don't care what side you're on. That was funny. And the fact that he didn't even know it was on there for a good minute. That thing was chilling on his head. Like, if a fly is on my head, I hope I would feel it, because, yeah, I mean, and by the way, flies are attracted to, things that aren't really clean and full of stuff. So I don't know, ironic much, maybe, but, I mean, who knows, right? Gotta say there was a little bit of irony there. And not just that, but it was just interesting to see how, with Pence, he was really responding to the pandemic crisis, to Brother Jonas's point, almost, in a soft tone, dismissing what's happened, like really making it seem like this administration has had things under control, has had a good response. neglecting that we've lost 200,000 people in this country alone. 200,000 people, more than 200,000 people. Many of us know someone who has passed away to coronavirus. Many of us have had coronavirus. Many people have lost their jobs to coronavirus. Many people have anxiety and can't get back to who they were before coronavirus. There's so much stuff that's happened. So for him to really, come out and try and make it seem like this administration has done this amazing job of containing this and bringing it down. It was disappointing, and it was really disturbing, because that has not been the case. That has not been the case. We've lost more than 200,000 people in this nation. There's nothing to be patting yourself on the back about on live television that's broadcasting to the entire world. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Brother Jonas. Does anyone have any other comments about the debate, what their thoughts were, how they felt? I will say, Senator Kamala Harris's facial expressions, she was not playing. She was not playing. She's already made history up until this point, with her background and everything that she's accomplished. But her being on that stage yesterday, as far as presence goes, she was fierce. She came with it. You can't deny that. And she was giving him those looks. When Pence would try and cut her off or, keep talking over her, she was just be like, the famous line where, she said, "Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking." Or, she wasn't done talking. And I thought that was a classic right there. That was a classic. But, I think both of them, we did see that both of them at one point or another did dodge some of the questions. So I would like to see, at least if you're not going to answer the question, at least address it. You know what I mean? Sometimes they would get asked a question and then they would completely go off on another subject. So I would like to see more of that. What would you guys like to see more of in the next debate? Because obviously there are upcoming debates. What would you like to see more of? And, for those of you who maybe didn't catch the debate last night, like I said, it was way more tolerable. We were able to get through it without going to sleep with a headache and experiencing nightmares because of the debate. It was, it still had its moments. It wasn't perfect, but it was way, way, way easier to watch than the previous one with the presidential candidates. But some of the topics that they did discuss was, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, the economy, taxes, healthcare, helping people with pre-existing conditions, climate change, jobs, relationships with China and Russia, foreign policy, Supreme Court, and bringing that new nominee into place, or deciding whether to wait or not, what's appropriate, expanding the Supreme Court or not expanding the Supreme Court. That was a question that Senator Harris wasn't really answering. But my thing is, shoot, if we're going to expand it, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm here for representation. I'm here for a better justice system that fights for people. He can't, they were bringing up how this system has been around for 150 years. And, are you really trying to change it, this and that? Look, there's been so many things around this country for more than 150 years. It don't make it right. It don't make it right. Slavery, 400 years ago, it wasn't right. But it was here in this country. So just because something has been law or been the case in this country does not make it right. Just because something is legal does not make it right. All right. So I'm just saying, I'm here for, for different ways of approaching a justice system that does not serve, people equally right now. So in addition to that, they did talk about women's rights, of course, topics around that. They talked about voting, voter suppression. They talked about racial justice, of course, law enforcement and police reform. And they had very different responses. They were asked about Breonna Taylor, our dear sister, who, of course, was murdered this summer by police in her own home while she was sleeping. And so that was brought up. And the question was, did she receive justice? Did her family receive justice? And Senator Harris came out and said that she believes she did not receive justice. That settlement doesn't equal justice. There still needs to be accountability. There still needs to be charges. There needs to be indictments. Meanwhile, Pence came out and completely, took that conversation. He did offer his sympathies for the family, but then he took it into a whole different direction and started talking about looting and rioting and all these different things. And my thing is, that was not the question. That was not the question. The question was about Breonna Taylor and did she receive justice? Nobody's asking you about the looting and rioting. And it just seemed like that was one of his tactics throughout the entire program. You know, he kept on pivoting. Every time there was a question, he would answer another question, which, you know, Senator Harris did as well at some points. But with Pence, he would just take it into a whole different direction and use it to, you know, to really express views and things that just didn't sit well with me and many others. And so, yeah, I thought I just, you know, it was just a lot. They did talk about auto workers, you know, they talked about fracking. So if you guys if you guys aren't familiar with fracking, that's something that I wasn't really familiar with. I actually did some homework last night and I watched some videos on fracking to better understand what fracking is and why it's so controversial. But it's a way, let me just read you guys the definition. But I did watch a couple videos, so I'll put them in the links if you're interested. But it's the process of injecting liquid at a high pressure into rocks and things like that to force open existing and extract oil or gas. So it's a way to get oil and gas through this whole process. And it's very controversial because, you know, in one way it creates, you know, it can contaminate water and it can, you know, create unnecessary pollution and do all these things. But then in another way, people are saying, you know, that it's helpful to get this source of energy. And so it's been very controversial, very, very, very controversial. But personally, from what I've seen so far, it definitely seems not good for the economy not good for the environment. So it's really important, you know, we have to do our research and better understand what these things are. What are other alternatives? What are other solutions? How can we achieve, you know, getting recyclable energy without having to, you know, do things like fracking that hurt our environment, that hurt our communities, that hurt, you know, people that contaminate water, people drinking water. And so it was interesting. So I would definitely put a link in here if you guys want to check it out. There was a good TEDx video that broke it down. So I want to put this in there, but I encourage you guys, you know, to stay on top of it because we need to make sure we understand what's going on. You know, we have to stay on top of it. We got to stay informed. And part of staying informed is, you know, doing research on topics, you know, you're not so familiar with. So just put a little link in there. If you're on YouTube or Facebook tuning in, you can click that and it breaks down exactly what fracking is and, you know, why it's controversial and stuff like that. And you can, you know, read some more articles and do some more homework as well. So let's continue learning, you know, so that was definitely a topic that was brought up. And, you know, they did talk about, of course, military and ISIS, you know, and just some of the interventions and different things that have happened. I mean, it was all the topics were pretty much what you would expect, you know, in a vice presidential debate. And it was, like I said, way more tolerable. We could actually hear them. We could hear some of the policies. We could hear some of the points that were being made, unlike, you know, last week where it was really hard. They did talk about, you know, again, with climate change, Pence was attacking Biden about going back to the Paris Climate Accord. And, you know, there's been a lot of tension between that. And then they were also talking about taxes, you know, and Pence kept accusing Biden of wanting to raise taxes on, you know, on people middle class, lower class, and Senator Harris came out and set that clear. She said that Joe Biden will not raise taxes on people who make less than $400,000. So that was something that, you know, they really had to make clear because they kept going back and forth. So if anybody's watching this, if you have any comments about the vice presidential debate last night, please leave it in the comment section. Or if you have any comments about what you would like to see, because there are more, you know, debates coming up. So what would you like to see? Leave that and I'll be sure to pull it up here. So yeah, there was a lot. There was definitely a lot. I mean, I could sit here and talk about all the topics the whole time, but it's important that we watch these videos because we need to stay engaged. We need to stay informed. And especially with us voting on who's about to lead this country, I think it's really important to keep an eye out on this. So if you haven't watched it, please go watch highlights or go watch it to make sure that you're staying engaged in this political process. If you are not registered to vote, please, please, please go ahead and register to vote. I'll put the comment. You just got to go to vote.org. So Georgia, the deadline to register to vote for this upcoming election did pass, but you can still register for future elections. That goes for Texas. That goes for different other states as well, whose deadlines were this past Monday, October 5th. So please, please, please consider going ahead and register to vote. If you have not, it takes less than 5 minutes. All you need to provide is your ID number, birthday, basic information like that. It takes less than 5 minutes. So make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you vote early. Please, please, please try and avoid voting on November 3rd. It's going to be long lines. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We don't want you guys getting sick. So please, please, please make sure you vote early. If you're going to vote by mail, make sure you follow all the instructions voting by mail, and try not to send it in through USPS. Try and drop it off at a Dropbox location, or take it to your county's registrar's elections office, because you can hand it to them directly. Make sure it gets in their hands, because we don't want anything happening. We don't have time for anything crazy. So please make sure you are registered to vote, voting early, and also and telling your friends and family. Like I said, if they can't register to vote for this November, get ready for the next election, because guess what? We got a lot more elections coming up. So we're gonna need to be ready. All right. So that's really it. I just wanted to check in with you guys to see what y'all thoughts were. Make sure to leave them in the comment section. I'm just glad that we were able to hear them this time. And here's some different, policies and different things that they actually discussed, instead of, the last election the last debate that was, a little bit hard to hear. So yeah. And I just want to say, I did appreciate one thing. There was a lot of points made about policies and everything, but, Senator Kamala Harris did come out and say that, they want to work toward banning chokeholds in this nation. And I thought that was a big point, because when we're talking about police reform, when we're talking about reimagining police and, being able to create a system that is here to be civil, right? Is here to serve the community, there needs to be reform. There's no doubt about that. Whatever side you're on, it's clear that we have this militarized police force, and there needs to be changes made. That's why you see different law enforcement bodies around the nation adopting different policies, adopting different changes. There have been some changes that there have been departments that have already banned chokeholds on a local level. So we haven't seen that on a national level, but we're starting to see that, on a local level. And so if we can see it on a local level, we should be able to see it on a national level. And so I appreciated Senator Harris's point, bringing that up, saying that is something that they want to do. They want to ban, chokeholds and other forms of excessive force by police to create a safer policing system. And I think that's important, especially, as a Black woman. I know we have a lot of, amazing individuals tuning into this, and we have a strong following of Black brothers and sisters. And we know, what the statistics are. We see what's happening in this country. And so there needs to be change. It's sickening that so many brothers and sisters have lost their lives that should still be here today. And so personally, I think it's important that when we're hearing from these candidates, I want to hear, what are you going to be able to do to help, reform the police system? What are you going to be able to do to create safer neighborhoods? What are you going to do to ensure that people will be able to survive interactions with officers who are there to serve those communities, to serve and protect those communities? And I know that there needs to be, compromise, like there needs to be conversation on both sides, right? We need to see how we can work together. It's not just going to be one side versus another. So how can we work together to achieve these goals, to really just create a safer and better nation? So that was really important to me as well. And, I think, and another point she made, Senator Harris said about expunging records of, people convicted with marijuana convictions. And I thought that was important because, in certain states, you have people who are facing these long sentences or fines or probations or all these different things for the same reason that people are making millions of dollars in California or Seattle or all these other places. And it's not fair, especially, in Atlanta and Georgia. We've seen cities come out and decriminalize marijuana, but you guys, there's no reason why these young kids and young adults should be going to jail or prison when people are becoming multimillionaires off of the same product that sent them to jail or prison. And so this needs to be addressed. And so for her to come out and say that, I thought that was a pretty big deal. And it's important. Now, the next part is holding them accountable, right? Whoever comes into office, it's easy to say something. It's easy to say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this and that. But we got to hold them accountable, right? You can you don't, just because, you know, you're voting someone into office, that doesn't mean y'all are friends, best friends. You could be, but it doesn't mean that. You still hold them accountable. Even if you like them, even if you don't like them, you still got to hold them accountable, because they are taking a position to serve the community. And so it's our job, once they get into office, that we hold them accountable. All right. So we got to vote early, then we got to hold them accountable. So that's the end of my little brief, thoughts on the vice presidential debate. Y'all, that fly was so funny. That fly, I can't even deal. I can't. I mean, there were funny moments all over, you know, between the fly and, of course, Senator Harris's amazing facial expressions. I just got to say, I mean, there was an expression for every moment you could think of. Like, it just, you got to go watch it if you haven't already. So remember, vote early, hold them accountable, and don't forget to fill out the census. The census has been extended to October 31st, so we have a little bit more time, which is great. So make sure you fill out the census and stay on top of it, you know, because it's on us. It is on us, and we are going to be the change our future deserves. So keep pushing, keep fighting, and I'll see y'all next time. As always, sending you lots of peace, love, and positive vibes from my heart to yours. Don't forget to subscribe to Hannah Joy TV on YouTube for more updates and videos in the future. Mwah. Bye, everybody.